sake, and as you know, we're keeping these online at our website, which you'll all get another notice about today. So for those of you who are attending the convening early next month, your hotel information and all of the logistics and meeting materials, et cetera, will arrive in your emails today. Expect those in just a little bit. And we've got our third panelist, so this is really great. I'm going to go in sort of order of sign-in, so I'm going to unmute my colleague Marjorie Cohen from National League of Cities here in just a second and bring up her PowerPoint. Beyond that, what this webinar is intended to do is provide you a very basic overview of some of the key TA providers that we've brought on early in this process. This is not exhaustive. I'm sure there will be other partners as we go on, but the three folks on the phone today, National League of Cities, Strive Together, and the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning address components of community work that are going to be important to the majority of you. National League of Cities engages with elected officials. Strive Together works via a very rigorous collective impact model, so they're on the process side for those of you looking to strengthen and build out collaborations, which obviously we're emphasizing in all of our work. And the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning does exactly what their title says, focusing on engaging adult learners and ensuring they're represented in higher education and have the opportunities available to younger students. So with that, I'm going to bring up Marjorie's PowerPoint. I'm going to unmute her. So Marjorie, we can now hear you. So no whispering under your breath. And I'm going to share my desktop. Here we go. Marjorie, can you let us know that you are on the line here?
I am, and I will stop singing to myself then.
Beautiful. All right, I think we've got you at the end. I'm going to launch right at the front. You can see Marjorie's beautiful picture. Okay, each of our panelists have about 8 minutes or so to fill in on everything and everything that they do. So I'll turn it over to Marjorie, and then we'll keep going. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Haley. Great. So I'm Marjorie Cohen. I'm the Principal Associate for Education at the Institute for Youth Education and Families at the National League of Cities, which I can often do in one breath. I want to say hello to everybody, I'm going to do this quickly, a lot of what we're going to be talking about at the meeting is going to be some of the strategies and the work, the more in-depth work that we've been doing on post-secondary success. But I'm just going to give you a quick overview of who we are and what we do. As you can see, we consider mayors and other municipal leaders as key mobilizers, as spokespersons for the post-secondary success agenda. We also see them as conveners and you know, playing a number of really important roles. Just to give you some quick background, NLC is the oldest and largest national organization representing municipal governments throughout the United States. We strengthen and promote cities as center of opportunity, leadership, and governance. We work in partnership. We were actually created by the state leagues. There are 49 state municipal leagues. And if you ask me which one doesn't have one, it's either Hawaii or Alaska. I can never remember. And we advocate for cities and towns. So within the National League of Cities, I sit in a very special place called the Institute for Youth Education and Families. We were launched in 2000. It was actually Mayor Menino in Boston who came up with the idea that mayors and other municipal leaders need a particular place to come for work on youth education and families. And so we recognize the unique and influential roles that mayors, city council members, and other leaders can play in addressing. And these are 9 of the myriad issues that we work on. We're a staff of about 18, I think, at this point. And the 3 big things that we do is we manage peer learning networks, we provide technical assistance, and we hold national convenings. And I'm going to get into those first two in a moment. To give you a sense of the kind of work that we've done in post-secondary success, many of you may have heard of Communities Learning in Partnership, which was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We worked with 4 cities intensively and 11 cities that were part of a peer learning network around post-secondary success. It was really about bringing together city leaders, community college leaders, and K-12 leaders to think about real structural change in the way that they work together and the way that their systems worked internally and with each other. And just to give you a sense of who we've worked with before in this larger, now 20-city cohort for CPA, of the affiliated cities within the larger 11 were Boston, Dayton, Louisville, and Philadelphia. We started in 2010 an initiative we're calling Municipal Leadership for Post-Secondary Success. The Lumina Foundation was our gracious first funder, and now we have money from the Kresge Foundation as well. We are looking to do very similar things, but with our first grant, we came out with a number of materials on municipal leadership for post-secondary success, and we also are running both a peer network, which I'll talk about in a second, and we're providing direct TA to a number of cities. So what this is really about is, strengthening the city's capacity to achieve significantly improved post-secondary completion results. And it's really about this multi-sector partnership that you all are engaged in and that we want to be able to help you think through. And so it's about constructively engaging businesses, philanthropies, and other partners, highlighting city engagement strategies that have been most effective, so promising and best practices, and helping to build consensus around key measures, which will be a major piece of the CPA work. So we are providing technical assistance and peer networking, as I mentioned. Right now we have something called CAPS, Cities Advancing Post-Secondary Success, and if I tell you that we sit in Washington, D.C., you will understand why everything that we do has an acronym. That is the way Washington, D.C. works. And so right now, CAPS is a technical assistance project that has 8 cities in it. And the TA that we provide, my colleague Andrew Moore and I are the TA providers, individual monthly partnership team conference calls, topical cross-site calls, site visits, best and promising practices, city practices dissemination. We broker access to national experts, which obviously with the CPA work, that's something that DCA and Steve Greeley will be doing. And we help development of data indicators and metrics. Within the CAPS work, we have some overlap with the CPA cities, and that's Houston, Louisville, Memphis, and San Antonio. The other piece of what we do is that peer networking piece. And again, with the acronyms, we have something called PSCAN, or Post-Secondary Success City Action Network. And it's a group of about 19 cities that get together on monthly calls and webinars. In fact, we're having another one tomorrow, a webinar tomorrow, to share their strategies and challenges, to share good news about the work that they're doing, but also hear from experts in the field. And there's an annual in-person meeting, and it's really for mayor senior staff who's working on these issues, and it's really a way for them to talk about city practices and city city involvement in post-secondary success initiatives. Again, with there being overlap with the CPA cities, Again, so Houston, Louisville, Memphis, Pittsburgh, Providence, and San Antonio are all PSCAN cities that are also part of CPA. This slide is something that we can definitely also just provide. These are actually links to some of our resources for municipal leadership. One of the things that we've been sharing a lot is actually this first, the Getting Started guide. How do mayors and other municipal leaders get involved in post-secondary success initiatives? What kinds of roles can they play, and how can they also be a champion for this work? And two of the major roles that we see for municipal leaders is the conducting of a scan of the local efforts. And that's something that I know most of you have had an opportunity to do, so that you can figure out where the holes are, who's doing what, and where you can decrease the duplication of efforts. And then, of course, the all-important using and sharing data. And that's something that we think that mayors can be instrumental in helping the many institutions, both higher ed and K-12, as well as CBOs, and even some city agencies, really get a sense of who's being served, how they're being served, and to what extent they are being successful. And then we have an expert paper that we asked Dr. Ken Wong at Brown University to write for us on. He's been working on K-12 and mayoral leadership, and so we asked him to take that next step and see what mayoral leadership looks like in 10 cities across the country in higher ed. And that's me talking really fast, and I have no idea if that was 8 minutes, but that's also me and all of my contact information. And I will turn it back over to Haley, and I will take questions whenever Lumina deems that a good idea.
Thanks, Marjorie. That was actually 10 minutes, but that was really
good. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So, folks, you're going to see the inner workings of my computer here, but we are going to close out of Marjorie's, and I am going to, one moment here, find, well, my computer's frozen, of course it is. All right, 1 second. I'm going to find my participants here, and I'm going to unmute Pranav Kathari from Strive Together, and I'm going to bring up Strive's presentation here. And Pranav, are you there?
I am here. Good morning, everybody.
Excellent. So same rules apply. Go ahead and get started. Pranav is with Strive Together, and he's going to tell you all about what they're going to do with us.
Perfect. Thanks, Haley. Thanks, everybody. We're really going to talk through 4 types of strategic assistance that Strive Together currently provides and that we would think about providing to the CPA sites. We'll go through these in probably 90-second increments, but design institutes, community impact report card, collaborative action training, and customized support. And I'll go through each of these in order. I can go to the next slide. So our overall framework, and I think a lot of you have been interactive with us in the past, the 4 dimensions of our strategic assistance align with our overall strategy framework, where we're looking to build shared community vision, evidence-based decision-making, collaborative action, and investment in sustainability. So we've really oriented our strategic assistance around these 4 dimensions, and what we're trying to help in our communities with the Strive, the Cradle to Career Network, is help communities move through a process of actually building these assets locally, so that they actually essentially accomplish everything that we see here on the framework. So what are design institutes? They tend to be 4 to 6 month, basically strategy consulting engagements. What we're really trying to help partnerships do is build that shared learning around what are the common outcomes and shared outcomes across the community that folks can agree upon and that they've deemed most critical to students being successful locally. This also ties into identifying data sources, indicators, and really the process of building community ownership of those outcomes and indicators. And really the design institutes kind of wrap up, or what we try to get to is put communities in a position to really build that first or initial community report card or community report on student outcomes. And I think a lot of you saw that in your CPA applications of that being an important part of the process. So they're really design institutes are put together and delivered to get to that outcome. These are generally delivered by 2 folks from the Strive Together team. We've got a strategic assistance team of about 6 people. It's usually a project director and a project manager. And really they're you can think of them as shepherds through a process. So they're helping you move through the development, identification of outcomes and goals at the community level, building a community ownership piece, identifying data sources, helping to actually get the data processes moving, and again, landing on that report card. The next slide. One of the things that we try to put together is a 188 action plans as we're working through the Design Institute. One of the pieces becomes what's the actual project plan, which you'll see this is a somewhat blurry example of, but really getting a sense of what are the steps we need to take to across each of the pillars. So this is an example of key steps related to shared community vision and evidence-based decision making. The next part of strategic assistance is related to actually a software tool that we developed called the Community Impact Report Card. Really, as I noted with the design institutes, tend to conclude with the actual publication or release of a report card, including community level outcomes. So what we tried to do for our partnerships is actually make that process a lot easier, so local partnerships aren't worried about figuring out how to build the report card from a technical standpoint. The Community Impact Report Card is a very simple web-based application that allows communities to just literally enter their data and actually build out HTML and PDF versions of a report card. Now, the one catch on this piece is we are actually redeveloping the software right now. So we'll be releasing a new version of it in February, which the whole purpose of that is actually to make it a much easier software platform for communities to use that require actually less support from the Strive team. But the technical and the strategic assistance related to CIRC is really around how do you talk about your outcomes, how do you talk about progress on indicators, what are kind of key findings you can share out of the data. That's really that's the tie to the strategic assistance piece. You see here just an example of what it produces is actually just a snapshot of a website, as you can see from the domain. Really simple, clean graphics, and the idea is you'll be able to basically put any of your either data or text into an online report and really, again, simplify the technical aspects of producing your baseline report. The next piece of strategic assistance is what we refer to as collaborative action training. If you think about that, those pillars that we saw earlier, one of the things that we want to see partnerships actually develop is as we've identified outcomes and indicators, really putting together collaborative action networks that actually work with local programming and local assets to deliver on those outcomes. So we've got an entire set of training led by one of my colleagues, Carrie O'Brien, to actually deliver on that outcome. So what we do is help communities build out their network, their collaborative action networks, figure out charters, do a lot of the action planning. They're fairly intense sessions, and so the number of times you do this type of strategic assistance tends to be based on the number of collaborative action networks that you form. So for the CPA strategy, you may form one specifically around some aspect of higher ed attainment or higher ed attainment for a particular population, so you could have a collaborative action network around that. And again, this is very much, as everything we do at Strive Together, is very much a capacity building focus. So what we're trying to do is help communities learn basically how we do our strategic assistance so that they're able to do it and continue to work locally. So the couple of the deliverables there are that charter and then the collaborative action plan. This is the process that we kind of think through, and as many of you know, this is essentially a version of the continuous improvement process, where a lot of this starts with that turquoise developing the charter, which produces the network charter, the action planning, which is what we help with, which delivers the action plan, and then it's all about local implementation and then ongoing monitoring and improvement. And the idea here is, as the graphic here suggests, is that as you're going through that monitoring improvement process, you're learning about what's working and what may need some improvement, so that you're able to then kind of maybe revise that charter or tweak it so then you can continue with the process. The next slide is an example of what one of these action plans, so when I say action plan, this is what it means for us. Highly detailed, obviously, is everything we do at Strive Together, rigorous and data-centric. And what we're trying to help organizations do is really get stuff onto paper, so as these collaborative action networks are executing their work, they have a very good sense of where they are now or where they're trying to get to. The last piece of strategic assistance we provide is the catch-all. In the years since Strive Together has existed, we've been called upon for a variety of either facilitation or consultation related to data systems, how do they architect, what kind of data should we be collecting, communications, what to do when there's a change in leadership, et cetera. So we basically have a large bucket that we call customized strategic assistance, and this is the big category of the it depends stuff. So depending on where your partnerships are, this may or may not come into play. It tends to be for more idiosyncratic issues that arise in partnerships where our team has specific expertise. So for example, one of our partnerships right now, they've actually moved through a lot of the work in the Strive theory of action, but now what they're trying to do is figure out actual work planning within their organization, almost more strategic planning. So that's an area where we don't do that as a typical course, but we're actually providing help on that strategic planning locally because that's a specific need that arose. Next slide is my contact information, as well as the Strive Together website. Similar to what Marjorie mentioned, obviously a lot of our thinking on collective impact and the rigorous approach to collective impact, which some of this CPA work is built upon, is we write a ton about it. So strivetogether.org has got a lot of those resources available.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pranav.
You bet.
Really appreciate it. Just to reiterate, of course, my computer is still malfunctioning, but I am going to move here to mute Pranav and unmute. Gabby, are you on the phone? Gabby? Okay. Well, folks, we are at a stage where we cannot get Gabby on the line, even though I know she's listening, and here we are. So what we're going to do here, my computer is frozen, and so I can't see any of the questions that you may have asked or any of that. Okay. We don't have any Q&A. This kind of fell apart at the end here. So, folks, I'll encourage you to, if you have any questions regarding the two presentations you just heard from Marjorie at National League of Cities and Pranav from Strive Together, that you send us an email, and we can definitely address those and put those questions up on the website in addition to this webinar, which is a recording. So the bottom line for this webinar, I hope you took away, was that we are going to have a variety of technical assistance available to you as you're developing your charters. The point is not for you to use everything, and indeed we have not paid for all of you to use every little bit of TA that's being provided. But in the event that you are a city that's very heavily engaged in collective impact work, then we should talk with you about your utilizing some of the in-depth TA available from Strive. If Kale, we are not able to hook Gabby in on the audio conference, is going to be providing assistance based on adult learners, prior learning assessment, engagement of business, all kinds of really important things that you'll address. All of these folks are going to be at the convening December 3rd and 4th, so you'll have a chance to meet them and talk with them in person. So thank you very much for putting up with our some technical difficulties. Again, I encourage you to send us an email, and we'll get back to you both individually and post that list of questions on the site. And one second, my colleague Gina is sending me a note. We will also have an 11 o'clock webinar, which you've all received an invitation to, which is Pranav, and he'll be going into the community assessment that Strive Together has built for the communities participating in this work. So thank you so much, and appreciate your patience, and we'll hopefully talk to you again in about a half an hour. Take care. Bye-bye.